Hello, my name is Cody Cantrell. I am 35 years old and a resident here in Gardendale, Alabama. And I really am looking forward to sharing my story with you about how God changed my life. And I really hope this blesses you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So, where does every story start? It starts at the beginning. When born, I was born with an air bubble in my lungs. Uh, I was born not breathing. Quick pop to the lungs, got the air bubble out. I was good to go. I don't really quite remember that, but that's what my mom told me. So, but in Psalms it says, "I was born in sinner, and in sin did my mother conceive me." Psalms 51 verse 5. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. I don't remember anything from them being married, except for one memory. That was when my dog passed away when I was 2. Till the age of 7, things were pretty normal for the most part. My parents loved me and I loved them, though I secretly wanted them to get back together. But at age 8, things would change. Spoiler: weeping may come in the night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalms 30, verse 5. I don't know when or why my mother turned to drugs or alcohol. I'll probably never know the why. But she started on a road that would take us both down a long and winding and bumpy road. So let me begin by saying these things I'm about to tell you are hard to hear and they're hard to talk about. But please understand, despite all this trauma, I very much loved and love my mother. So, to dive into it, my mom used to frequent a package store very often, but as things progressed, I would notice a brown sack and something in it. Jaeger, it was her favorite. And those nights, she would be in her room, very absent, and on weekends, she would take me to movie gallery, and I would rent a movie and a video game, which I absolutely loved. Then we would go buy pizza or a sack full of crystals or, something to hold me over for the weekend, keep me busy. But I wouldn't see her much on those weekends. Little did I know that all this stuff was just ways to keep me out of the way. Much like my kids are today, I was a very active kid. I loved sports then. But my mom would take me to practices and games, but little did I know she was in the car drinking. And sometimes it would be very obvious that she was intoxicated. And I would have to drive home with her drunk. It eventually came to a head, and she had passed out in a car, and the people involved at the park had her banned because of this. Seeing her drive home with me drunk like that, as we dive a little deeper here, there became a time she would spend long periods of time in this package store, and I would be in the car waiting and wondering what she was doing. She was in there drinking and doing extracurricular activities. And when we would get home, there would be times she would pass out before dinner, and I would have to wake her up. That was never a good thing. That was always a mistake. And I had to learn that the hard way, and I learned the lesson early on. I learned how to cook for myself and fend for myself. She would be on a mix of pills and alcohol, and she would just be irate if I woke her up. She ever had any alcohol. It was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of scenario, any type. And she would take that out on me physically. One time I very much so remember is her getting on top of me and put a pillow over my face while screaming at me. This would be the first time that I can remember God putting something in my head or talking to me, or however you want to word that, which was get your knees to your chest, push, roll, and go. Um, I did just that, and she passed out, and that was the night that I've always remembered. I would like to move to my father for a moment in all this and tell you that he would eventually get me out of all this. I loved my dad. I still love him today. I always aimed to impress and live up to his standards, though I know wholeheartedly that I fell short probably more times than not. This was the 90s, and a father getting custody of the kid was just so rare. So when things would happen and my mom would get like this, I would call him, and he would have me hang up and call back, and I would have to leave like a detailed message on this answer machine of what was going on, what was taking place, and I had to be very specific. And then he would come and get me. He was building his case. It would take a little time, but he would eventually get it. Now back to my mom. I won't go over every single thing that I endured, but I will cover some. For a long time, I covered for my mom. One time, for instance, in the middle of the night, I was awoken out of a sleep, screaming that they were in the house. They were in the house. They're in the house. I had no idea who they were. You're a kid. It doesn't matter who they is. You're scared. And we got out of the home, and in this process of trying to escape, I noticed that she's not at herself. And the they that they spoke of was all in her head. We made it to the neighbor's house, and she told him the story of they. He grabbed a rifle and scanned around the home and inside. He also saw nothing. I think he realized the same thing I did and went home. She then took me back to the home and called the police because they were still there. They came out and they checked, did their due diligence, finding nothing. And one police officer, an older police officer, pulled me to the side and said, "Son, did you see anyone?" I thought and I thought and I thought, and I made my mind up to cover for her and said, "Yes, I saw men with flashlights run up the hill when y'all were pulling in." They left, of course, finding nothing. My mom's family was somewhat willingly blind to what was going on. I told a certain family member one time that was on my mom's side of the family some things that were going on, and they threatened to knock my teeth out of my head if I ever said a lie like that again. Then there were some on my mother's side that saw little things. Like, for instance, one time I didn't come home at the exact time I was supposed to as a kid from playing outside. And she made me sleep outside, locked the door, and wouldn't let me in. My godmother, with courage, tried an intervention, informing my mother if she didn't change, she would have to go to my father and obviously support him, which only made her more sneaky and more private about doing things. She got better at covering. She was really good at covering things up. But I'll get to that here in a minute. And I never really got to talk to my godmother till much later on in life again. So one incident that happened that made me not trust people or therapists, especially, which has carried on the majority of my life since. My mom had a night. She was very inebriated, and she was going to leave in the car. I knew then that she was in no state to drive. So, but she insisted on going. And I tried everything I could to keep her from doing it. But she made it to the car, and I got on the hood of the car thinking that she's not going to leave with me on the hood of the car. And to keep in mind, to give some context here, why that might be such a deterrent, we lived on this hillside. It was a pretty steep hillside down. And so going down something like that, you would think nobody would do that. But, boy, was I wrong. She took off with me on the car. So when she took off, it was a very scary situation. She slammed on the brakes at the bottom of the hill. I go rolling off. And thankfully, by the grace of God, where in particularly she slammed on these brakes, I was thrown off into what you would call is a wash from the hillside. So there was dirt, sand, and all the debris that would wash down instead of just going straight to concrete. But I can remember sitting there, after checking myself and making sure that I was okay, that this is not okay. I can't take it anymore. I'm done covering. I mean, she didn't even stop to see if I was okay. She just took off. And that's not okay. And I was okay. I'm gonna stop covering now. So I went to school the next day and asked the teacher to talk to the school therapist. And I told the story that I just told you here. And he looked at me and he said, if that had happened, you would be in the hospital right now. So go back to class. And in that moment, I can remember thinking, even just as a young child, the fact that I'm not in a hospital, that I don't have a broken arm, or I'm not on life support or something, that made me a liar. No. If that's what I needed to believe you, then whatever. So he sent me back to class, and in that moment, I shut down. A lot of my trust went away. I had told a family member, I had told a school faculty member, and truth be told, I had told a counselor, another counselor prior to that one too, and nobody ever did anything, and so I just shut down completely on trust and people, it felt like. My mom would never really remember, or at least that's what she claimed. Maybe she did remember, I don't know. The things that she did come like the next morning, or these times that she would get out of it. For instance, one night she had ran me down through the house, got on top of me, slapping me, and she's shaking me, telling me she wished she had never had me. And I told her I didn't ask to be born, and I was very scared. And in that moment, I said, I can't take it. I have to defend myself. If I don't, I may not make it out of this situation. And so I did. So she had a bruised eye the next morning. She said, do you see what you did to me? And I countered back with, do you not remember bouncing my head off the ground, hitting me, telling me all these awful things? You were practically using my head as a basketball. So, like I say, I was afraid that, as a kid, you don't know how far somebody's willing to take it. I don't guess you really know or understand. And so I was always scared that might be an outcome. And so, but her way of covering up to the outside world was making it seem child. I was the scapegoat. But it eventually would come out in the wash, the truth. So back to my father. He's building this case, and he would finally get the piece that he would need to get me. One afternoon, after being picked up from school, my mom and grandma, and also a cousin, all claimed we were taking my grandma to a doctor's appointment. Little did I know, the hospital was for me. I was going to be admitted into Hillcrest Hospital. I can remember it all too well. My mother went into the hospital with my grandmother and was back there for a long time. Then some men came out and told me that I was going to come with them. I ran. I made it to the front door, not knowing where to go, what to do. They're not far behind me. They catch up to me, and they told me that if I was to go out that front door, that I would be called, and I would be given a sedative. And so I did just that. I gave in. I was devastated. There was a room I was given and a roommate. The kids in there, they seemed nice enough. I had a cool roommate, but I knew I was in there under false pretense. We had to be in line everywhere we went. We hung out in a day room, did schoolwork, watched TV. So my father received an anonymous call the next day at work that I had been admitted into Hillcrest. He believed it to be a cousin of mine. And he got to work. He got a lawyer and got in touch with my school and my teacher at the time. She was so angry that I had been admitted, and I just swear that woman was my favorite teacher of all time. Shout out to her wherever she is nowadays. So my dad came to the hospital, and he had to sit down with me and his lawyer, and was assuring me he was going to get me out of here. I'm pretty sure this was on a Friday. He did that the following Monday. I was out, and I was with him. My mom had falsified documents to get me in there without my dad's permission. If the Leeds had been there, I'd been out on Friday. They were scared my father would obviously threaten litigation if not. This is the thing that broke everything open. My father presented her with an option. She could either sign me over, or he would go to a judge with all the evidence. Remember, all the tapes that I was calling and leaving information, and again, this hospital incident where falsified documents were done, and would let the judge handle it. Or she could just go let me live with him. She knew what would happen if she didn't. So I went to go live with my dad. Finally. Also, this is when everything finally came out in the open to others on my mom's side of the family, who could finally see it for what it was. They told me they were sorry, and that they had some claim they had no idea. I don't know how that could be so, being that I was telling what was going on, but there were some that knew, and again, like I say, the anonymous phone call, there's several other people who went to bat for me, and but anyway, I didn't really like to hear sorries back then after that. It kind of angered me more than anything. I wish I could say this was the end. My mom got clean and everything was hunky-dory from there on, but that wasn't the case. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Again, I really want to reiterate. My mom, at her heart, was a good person, and she loved me. She made my birthdays really special, and my love from the holidays, how I go all out for them nowadays, for sure, definitely came from her. She loved me, this I know, but she had her own demons she was battling. I know my mom losing me and having everything come out like it did had to be tough, and I wish I could say she turned her life around and gave it all at the cross and to God, but she still relied heavily on alcohol and pills. I would go over to see her on weekends and every other Wednesday for a little while. Well, for a while it was okay and peaceful, but much like any addiction, it creeps back. When I was younger, she would take me to these people's houses, and we'd be there for quite some time. And they would be in some back room, and they were buying pills. And one in particular incident, it was Halloween. My mom told me we were going to a Halloween party. It was on a Sunday. And a lot of times here in the South, at least back then, and then in this particular instance, Halloween was celebrated on Saturday. So Sunday was obviously reserved for the Lord. So when she told me we were going to a party on Halloween, I was super excited, thinking there would be other people there, with kids my age. Just it's going to be a great time. Boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. It was an adult party, and I walked in, of course, the only child there, and my mom made quick work to get rid of me. She told me to go trick-or-treating. In the apartment, it was in an apartment complex, so I was to go trick-or-treating in this apartment complex. So I did. I met this one kid. She was dressed up as Cleopatra. I'll never forget that. And we went door to door, knocking, getting candy, and we eventually ran out of doors to knock. So I went back to the party. I found my mom, and she was out of it. I remember being so mad and made a big to-do about it. And the guys at the party didn't like it. Everyone was inebriated, and I was pitching a fit about wanting to go home and for my mom to take me. Well, the guys there said if I didn't hush, they would duct tape my mouth shut. I've always been a bit of a probably braver than I should be. I'll say that much. So I told them, "You're bluffing. You're not going to do it to me. No way, no how." That was a mistake. I fought back, and then they duct taped my hands and my feet, so I couldn't move. They left me alone and was doing something else, and I was able to stand up and hop over to the front door and open it. Now, keep in mind, they had only duct taped my mouth with a piece of duct tape, and I was able to maneuver my lips and the mouth for the tape to give way so I could speak. I got out of the front door and started hollering, "Cleopatra, Cleopatra, Cleopatra." I had no idea this girl's real name, but I just hollered it. And the time they heard me, they picked me up and put me right back in there. I'll never forget that. And a lot of these things I didn't tell my father until later on in life. This particular incident happened before my dad got me and had custody. I say this to come back to when I was living there. She went places to go get stuff after I left. She would then have men who lived with her, and often they were on and off a lot of the times. These guys really weren't good people. I shouldn't say that. I mean, maybe deep down they were, but they didn't act like good people. I couldn't stand them. They couldn't stand me. It felt like a fox was in the hen house. I want to say, I want to say this. A lot of things that happened to me, I didn't tell my father until later. Now, the times that my mom would hit me and beat on me, I would call my dad, and he would know about those. But for some strange reason, I always felt a need to hide some of the bigger things. She was my mom. Maybe I always felt that need to protect because I knew what would happen. Though these things were happening to me, I still felt some obligation to protect her. As a teenager, I once had a friend stay the night with me. She got very drunk and tried putting her hands on me. Now I'm a teenager, and at this time I can handle my own. I'm probably 13 or 14, and my friend saw her get physical with me and holler and cuss and just act crazy. I want to say right now, to this day, that this guy was a true friend. I asked him not to say anything or tell anybody at school, and he kept that promise, as far as I know, and I admire him so much for that. But one incident soon after that would change how I felt in my relationship with my mom for almost a year. So again, I'm a teenager. We had this cat, and he had been missing for a few days, and he finally showed back up. I'm on a visitation weekend with my mom. She had told me not to bring the cat in the house. She's been drinking all day. This is later on in the day. And I said, he's been missing for days. I know he's hungry. I'm just going to feed him, and then I'll take him right back out. She told me that if I brought the cat in the house, there was going to be problems. And I looked at her and said, well, let there be problems then. So then, as I said, I proceeded to feed the cat, and true to my word, I was sitting there waiting for him to finish so I could take him back out. But before that could happen, I heard her let out a scream and turn the corner and run at me with a baseball bat in hand. I took off running. She caught me in the sunroom where I had knocked over a vase and busted it trying to get away from her. I paused, and in this moment, she swung the bat. I ducked, and by the grace of God, she missed. And when she missed, you know how you swing a bat like that, you have to pull it back to swing again. And in that moment, I grabbed the bat and her and shoved her onto the couch and ran out of the house. I had picked up my cell phone to call my dad and told him what had happened and just come get me. Please do not call the cops. And that I was done. I'm not coming back. I'm over it. I'm over this whole thing. So for over a year, I didn't talk to her. I want to commend my father. He was always very understanding of my wishes. He never tried to influence me in my decisions about my mom. He never tried to get me not to talk to her. He just always was there for me and supported me. He always let me make my own decisions, like not calling the cops. He could have in that situation, but I asked him not to, and he did that for me. Now keep in mind, I'm a teenager now, and things are a lot different than being a child. Again, I wouldn't talk to my mom for probably close to a year. She made every effort to try and reach out, but my heart just wasn't in it. But eventually, I found forgiveness for her and let her back into my life. Now to summarize all this with my mom. After that in particular incident and not talking to her for a year, I'm probably 16 years old. So things are obviously way different. Did she still drink? Yes. Did she still do pills? Yes. But she could no longer take things out on me. I was my own person. My mother did a lot of good things for me in my life. Please do not misunderstand this. There are a lot of good times I had with my mom. Not all of it was bad. There were so many good times too. But later on in life, at 21, she would do something for me I never thought she would ever do. Now to bring some stuff on me. My turn. When I turned 18 years old, I really turned loose. I drank, I got drunk for fun, but I never got addicted to it. And I still don't drink to this day. I've never done a drug that wasn't prescribed to me. Yes, that does mean I've never even smoked weed. Nobody ever believes that, but it's truth. I feel like addiction runs in my veins, and I just don't want to tempt it. So back to being 18. I'm going into my senior year in high school, and my father was a strict father. And trust me, when I say that, I needed a strict father. Trust me. So, no longer at 18 can he have any say in what I do, or how to do it, or when I do it. Boy, did I take that to heart. I was an idiot. Emphasis on that word, idiot. Again, senior year in high school, I'm done with the whole thing. So I decided I'm going to quit school, and boy, did I go out with a bang. I was having a really awful day. I was tired of everything. I was skipping class this day. I was hanging out in the lunchroom with friends and telling everyone how done I was. And I'm going to quit school. Well, this day, I had on some sunglasses and was wearing them inside. Just being dumb. Looking for a problem, really. Well, the one teacher, who everyone couldn't stand, approached me and demanded I take off those glasses. And I thought about it for a moment. Then I complied. Then the fellow student next to me said, "Hey man, if you're serious about this quitting school stuff, before you go, could you do us all a favor and kick his butt before you leave?" Okay. So I went looking for him. And I found him. I cussed him like a dog, up and down, trying anything I could to get him to put a hand on me to proceed with my idea. My dumb idea. He never did it. He never touched me. And I never touched him either. But somehow, I was still arrested for assault at the age of 18, though later on charges would be dropped. I was sent to alternative school for this incident. I did not really want to go, but my dad really wanted to see me graduate, and I did it for him. They gave me 40 days there. I said I'd go, but not a day over 40. One teacher decided not to let me have my day. That you had to earn your day. You had to accumulate enough points for your day to count, which meant I had to do 41, which I told her I'll never be back. I got into another altercation on the way out that day with a male teacher and never went back. I never went back to school again. Dumb, I know. Yes, I completely agree. I would proceed to go get my GED soon after that and start my place in the workforce. Like I said, all that happened at the age of 18. My father, along this time, would be diagnosed with a sickness which would send him completely into relapse, into drugs and alcohol again, to which would lead me to leave the home and be out in the world as an adult for the first time. So my dad, to give why I say again, my dad struggled with drugs and alcohol and went into rehab. I was probably, I want to say that was mid-90s, so I was probably 94, 95, so I was probably 5 years old at the time. And he really got cleaned up and did the right thing, and really, from there on out, was great. So that's where I say again. I got my first apartment at the age of 19. So my place was the spot for people to be. People to come over and hang out all the time. Parties, friends, women, no rules. Just mine to live by. So fast forward to the age of 20. A few months after getting my own apartment, I met this woman who I'd known briefly in my short-lived time. We were reintroduced to one another and dated for a few weeks. And it just wasn't a good relationship for either one of us. Just wasn't a good match. But out of this, for the first time, I would become a father. I'm 20 with a baby on the way. I'm not in a relationship with this person. I'm working, living life, waiting to be a dad. Well, then Caden was born. By this time, I'm 21, and I'm one proud Papa Bear. I would get custody of Caden at the age of 8 months old. So now I'm 21, a single dad with an 8-month-old. What's the first thing I do? It was a smart one. I came back to church here at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, and I would want to have my son baptized. So I came back and would meet Pastor Dave here and all the fine folks here at my home church, and we would get him baptized and at about 8 months old. So I'm doing my dad thing. I'm 21, living my best life. I'm in a house at this time. I'm a happy father. Life is going normal till one Saturday morning in November. This particular morning, I was still asleep with plans to go to an Alabama football game that evening. But at 6 a.m., I got a phone call that would change everything. My mom had recently been admitted into the hospital for a routine shoulder surgery and had waited some time before going in. It was absolutely horrible. She had broken her shoulder, and it was just black and blue from here down. Well, the surgery went fine and was a success. I had seen her the previous day, visiting her on my lunch break from work. But things changed drastically with a phone call I got that Saturday morning saying that you need to come to the hospital. Your mom's on life support, and you have to be here being the only child. I panicked. I threw on some clothes to rush down and found my mom. Or I should say a shell of her. Being told by doctors that she had coded and they were able to get her back, but this was the state she was in. And I was going to have to make a choice to keep her on life support or take her off. So at 21 years old, my mother was going to pass away. I didn't exactly make the decision right then and there. I thought about it, prayed about it, talked with others who were there, like my godmother, and my dad came down, and we were all standing there. You know, it's not a decision that anybody should take lightly. And then an event happened that would end up making the decision for me. She codes and flatlines, and they're running people out of the room, and my mom's it's just like a movie. You just hear beep, and doctors are rushing in. They're bringing in the crash carts. They're performing CPR. They're doing the paddles, and I'm just a statue, and I can't move. I'm taking all this in, and then I don't know who or what grabbed me and ushered me out of the room, and just in total shock of what I just saw. But they got her back, and again, she's still just this shell staring up at the ceiling. And that's when I made the decision that I'd had to go let her be with the Lord. And because there was no more, the person that I knew was no longer there. 6 months prior to this, my mom and I had a time together where she had called me and asked me to come over. She said she had something for me. When I proceeded to get there, she, was talking to me to tell me about some things, and ironically enough, something that I never thought would ever happen, how sorry she was for my childhood. This was the first time she had ever really apologized for anything. Instead of ignoring them or passing blame, it was just a total shock. And then in this moment, looking back now, I know God was giving me the peace because He knew I would need this 6 months down the road when she wouldn't be with us anymore. And I needed closure. Through His grace, I got to have it. And to add to that, the last thing I ever told my mom while she was alert and well was that I loved her. After burying my mom, 3 months later, I would bury my cousin. She was like a sister to me. She passed away tragically in a car wreck. 3 months after that, I would bury my grandmother, my mom, on my mom's side. She passed of natural causes. They say it comes in threes. Now I'm around 22, and I've buried some really important people in my life. But I wasn't done doing so yet. At the age of 23, I'd get another phone call, much like the one I'd got about my mother. This time, it was about my father. He'd woke up one morning, and he'd tried to get up, and he couldn't. And he couldn't stand too well. He couldn't walk right. And he called my grandmother and my grandfather, who those two are like the world to me, and were really some staples in my life, and really showed me a lot of things in life. There's no wonder why he would call them. But to get them down, and they called 911. And they got the ambulance out there, and they tried to convince him to go, and if you just knew my dad, there was just no way he was going to go home anyway. But, they checked his vitals and everything, and then they left. So not long thereafter that, he said, I think you need to call him back, and I think I need to go. And they loaded him up and got him, and he was having a conversation, much like I'm speaking now. I had a friend who was actually on that ambulance with my father in the back at that time. He was having a conversation with him, and he said that all of a sudden my dad got really quiet, and his eyes started to dart and roll back, and then he flatlined. And this is as they're pulling into the hospital. They would get him back, and he would be put on life support. The life that he was really living after relapsing really hurt him. And unfortunately, it would catch up to him. And I also had to make the same decision with him that I did with my mom. And then I would have to bury my father. And then a year after that, I would lose my grandfather. My grandmother and my grandfather on my father's side were always two very important and special people in my life. And I would not be where I am today without them. And I thank God for them. And, them and my father played a huge role into who I am and where I am today. So I would bury my grandfather, who would pass away from Parkinson's. Unfortunately, his muscles shut down in his throat. He could no longer swallow and didn't want to be on a feeding tube. And so, unfortunately, we would bury him. So, about a year or so later, I would meet this lovely lady that, my friends and family and all know, who's my wife, Sydney. I'm in college now for business management. I've earned a scholarship. I have a 3.5 GPA. I'm getting ready to graduate very soon. We fell in love real quick, if I'm being honest, and would be married shortly thereafter that, on April 30th. This, to me, was the happiest I had ever been by far in my life. It was my dream to be married, to have a family, to grow old. Always had been since I was little and my parents were divorced. I was determined not to end up divorced like them. I was determined to make that American dream work, and I was going to do whatever I could to do so. So here we are, a young couple. I have a son already, and not long after we were married, we got pregnant with our first child together, Crimson, and growing our family to where later on we would have our youngest son, Cohen, to complete our family. In this process, I would graduate college. I would go into the banking world for I won't say the company's name, but a particular institution. Just wasn't my corporate wasn't really for me, and so I had a rental at the time and another rental, and I started venturing out into to real estate, flipping houses, building houses, even had rentals, and so again, I'm working at that corporate job, and I leave it to go be my own. I would probably do this for around 10 years. Times are good, so I thought. I'm flipping houses, I've built houses, I have a lot of free time. All this is just building to a really not so good time. So I make my own schedule, so I use my free time to do a lot of traveling, to do a lot of concerts. Dave, my pastor here, used to tell me all the time, I need to slow down. I'm always going somewhere and doing something. And truth be told, I was. Concerts, baseball games, football games, traveling, cars, houses, just plain old materialism. I started letting that define who I was, how I valued myself. Truth be told, I put my happiness and faith into that. Why having all these things isn't wrong, so long as you don't let it consume you and define who you are. Well, I did. And going into our marriage, neither one of us had the right maturity or mindset in the beginning. I take the blame for that because I am the spiritual leader of my family. So that falls on me. Now, if I'm being honest, I never saw a divorce coming, but it did. She went to work one day we had our own business together as well. It was a daycare, and she went to work one day, and just never came back home. It was heartbreaking. I wouldn't wish a divorce on my worst enemy. So this would start the beginning of the worst time in my whole entire life. And that's saying a lot considering what I'd been through as a kid. Truth be told, I never really believed in divorce because I never wanted that to happen to me because of my parents. I wanted to be able to say I kept my family together. And now here I am, going through a divorce process, just like them. It's killing me. That's what it felt like, just from the inside out. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I had no go in life. I just was miserable, to be frank. The divorce was ugly, bitter, and just ugly. I tried everything to cope, just like I had when I was younger. Trips, concerts, traveling, relationships. Now that's a big one, because I really always wanted to feel love and attention. I was desperate for it, even if it was just fake love. I root that back to, or I don't, it's been rooted back to me that I was always craving that attention, that I truly always wanted and desired from my mom that I never truly got. At least that's one of the ways it's been put to me. So, again, I'm putting my happiness and value in the hands of materialisms and others, other relationships, friendships, and all kinds of other, ways. This divorce would go on for 4 years. And it just kept getting uglier and uglier as time went on. And I would eventually come to a point in my life where we had a year left in this divorce unknowingly to me. And it kept dragging out. It took so much out of me. The first part of the divorce, I got down to my high school weight. I didn't eat for 2 weeks, almost 3. I was just broken. So 3 years later, I'm in Pastor Dave's office, and I have a panic attack, one of many that I had during that time. I just couldn't seem to shake the feelings of depression, anxiety, and fear. Ultimately now, in this time, I had been diagnosed with PTSD, insomnia, depression, anxiety, and abandonment issues, all from the childhood trauma. So this divorce did not help in any way. So at about a week or two after I had this breakdown in Pastor Dave's office, we had another court date. There seemed to be an light at the end of the tunnel now. I got down, quite literally right here, in this very spot in church here, and cried out to Jesus and told him that my life was his, mind, body, spirit. I'm your servant. I'm the clay, you're the potter. I'm tired of doing things my way. I give it all to you. However you see fit, that's what I want to do. And then the next day, I woke up. No more anxiety, no more depression, no more fear. I used to wake up every morning. And when I tell you the thoughts and the depression and the anxiety that I have were crippling, the intrusive thoughts, the moment you would open your eyes in the morning, it was horrible. It was really, it felt like no way to live. From the moment I opened my eyes to the time I laid in bed at night, staring up at a ceiling, waiting and hoping my sleep meds would kick in. But that morning was different after I'd given my life to the Lord right here. I woke up. I felt 100 pounds lighter. My mind was at ease. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't fretful. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was at peace. And I knew then that I owed it all to God. It wasn't a pill. It wasn't a drink. It wasn't a new relationship. It wasn't some new travel plan. It wasn't some new thing that I bought. It was God. His mercy, His grace, His love. He had to break me to make me new and to make me better. You have not because you ask not. James 4, verse 2 through 3. One of the first things that I prayed for after Sydney and I separated was obviously reconciliation for our marriage. And I thought that prayer went unheard or as a flat no. But as you all know, family and friends that is, that wasn't the case. Sydney and I would rekindle our love for one another and put our marriage back together. How that all started was after my kids' All-Stars game. It was a baseball game. The kids were supposed to go back with her for the weekend, and it was late. My daughter ran out to me and said, "Dad, will you go to Taco Bell with us?" I said, "Of course, baby girl." And the kids sat together in a booth, which put Sydney and I sitting together. And we started talking about, you probably can guess it, the Bible and in God. See, got you there. You probably didn't guess that. But that 5-minute conversation led to an hour-long conversation. An hour-long conversation led to a 5-hour conversation, all in the same night. It was late, and I got them a hotel so they didn't have to drive back that night. She came. She would go home the next day, and she would come back a day after that, and never went back again. But it all started because of a conversation over God. That prayer that I thought went unanswered, which there's no such thing as an unanswered prayer. There's just no, yes, or not right now. Because I'll be honest, if I had gotten that answer back then of yes, I would have probably squandered that blessing. He had to show me that the world wasn't important, and what the world had to offer wasn't worth it. It's okay to be in the world, but don't be of the world. Think of it this way. A boat floating in the ocean. That's okay for it to be out there, floating around, doing what boats do. But the water gets in through even a tiny hole, big hole, whichever. It slowly starts to sink. And then when it sinks to the bottom, it becomes part of the ocean. And when it sinks to the bottom, it's now a part of it. So be in this world, but not of it. The devil wants you distracted. C.S. Lewis nailed it. And when he says that the devil wants you distracted, to keep them distracted. And boy, was I ever distracted. My conviction moment wasn't some moment where I was diagnosed with some terminal disease or surviving some horrific car crash. It was sitting in a recliner watching probably Stephen A. Smith on SportsCenter. I hadn't yet gotten to a point in this monumental moment in my divorce, but the Lord had told me in my spirit, get up, go read the Bible, starting in the New Testament with Matthew. Now, I've read the Bible cover to cover, and I had no reason to have that conviction. I mean, it came out of nowhere, but I listened. I'd given up in this divorce time. I'd given up reading the Bible. I'd given up doing daily devotion. I prayed a time or two, but after that moment of conviction, I did exactly what I was told. I started reading the Bible. I started diving deeper into prayer, the Bible, devotion, and I was being prepared for what was to come. And I've done nothing but grow as a Christian and as a person ever since then. So what's the whole point to all this? God is good all the time, and He loves you, and He cares for you, and He wants what's best for you, and He wants to spend eternity with you. Don't put your faith and value into this world, because this world will let you down time and time and time again. But God will never. He saved me, and He can you as well. But to know that when you want to go stronger in your faith, your battles may get tougher. How do you grow a muscle? You work that muscle. You lift heavier weights. You make, like how a muscle is made, you make these microscopic tears within the muscle, and the body's like goes to repair that so your body can lift that weight the next time that it's there, i.e. growing stronger and stronger and stronger each time. That's like your faith. and God's going to be your spotter, but He's not. If He lifts it for you, you gain no growth. So, God saved me, and He can you as well. I mean, who am I? I'm just Cody. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm made in the image of God, but so are you. So are you. So are all of us. And if He can do it for me, He can do it for you. He will do it for you. But you got to let Him. He's knocking at the door. All you got to do is let Him in. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And I hope that my story blesses you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And God bless you. And take care.